angered just 92 miles away from Columbia.
You constantly tell us what we cannot do. We cannot kneel. We cannot march. We cannot stand. We cannot sing. So what can we do?
Peaceful protest Wednesday after the shooting death of Keith Scott by a police officer. Protest that started as a prayer vigil turned violent.
They shot someone to free them from us. What happened? I don't know. They just shot somebody.
Police in riot gear firing tear gas. Some protesters attacking news crews, including one from News19.
We were sitting around in the newsroom, obviously preparing to bring you this newscast and watching live feeds from downtown where we saw somebody that looked like our chief photographer, Eric, and it turns out it was Eric. He was hit in the back of the head from a protester and fell on the ground. Right there he is, right near a can that was on fire.
Now a state of emergency amid the Charlotte chaos. Now this is the scene this morning as the National Guard arrives in Charlotte after Governor Pat McCrory calls for a state of emergency. This happening just hours after protesters and police filled the streets of Charlotte.
Now, at this point, we are told that the protester was shot, at least 4 officers hurt as well, and all now recovering. Good morning. Thank you for sticking with News 19. This is the story of the morning. I'm Ashley Isbicki.
And I'm Deon Giller. We've been covering this all morning, and we also covered it last night with our crew there that you saw in that piece just a couple of minutes ago that they were injured in that. We, of course, will talk to you more about that. But right now, calmer streets this morning, littered by damage from last night. The National Guard now deployed in the city to help restore peace.
Don Champion has the latest from Charlotte.
The chaos in Charlotte stretched well into the overnight hours as protesters faced off with heavily armed officers. Tear gas filled the air and at least one flashbang exploded as officers moved in to clear the streets. The scene played out as anger over the deadly police shooting of Keith Scott spilled onto the streets for a second night. Some demonstrators were arrested peacefully, but damage to businesses and stores in Charlotte's vibrant uptown area mounted. Windows were smashed, even at the Spectrum Sports Arena.
Justice justifies everything. If you give the black man justice in accordance to the laws of the land, there'd be no need for this.
At one point, a man was shot in the head by another civilian, drawing raw emotion from this protester.
We came out here for peace. This is not how we succeed. I was wiping off his blood. I was sitting right next to him. There was no life in his eyes.
Fueling the unrest, the different narratives of what led up to Keith Scott's death Tuesday.
I want people to know that we are going to make sure that our investigation is thorough and it's transparent.
Police say the 43-year-old ignored repeated demands to drop a gun when they confronted him at this apartment complex, but family members insist he was holding a book, not a weapon. Don Champion, CBS News, Charlotte.
Well, the North Carolina chapter of the NAACP now calling on authorities to release video of what happened as quickly as possible.
And another community reeling this morning from another officer-involved shooting, this time in Tulsa, where funeral arrangements will be held. A funeral will be held on Saturday for 40-year-old Terrence Crutcher. Dashcam video shows Crutcher holding his hands up, walking away from police when he is shot. Crutcher was unarmed.
Well, Hillary Clinton is calling recent police-involved shootings of African-American men unbearable, while Donald Trump says they're troubling. The Republican nominee is also calling for the aggressive police tactic stop and frisk to go into effect nationwide. The practices allow police to detain and search pedestrians based on the suspicion of criminal activity. Its legality has been challenged, and the practice has been stopped in New York and Chicago.
During a day where protests in Charlotte turned violent, a group of people right here in Columbia gathered for peace. The Carolina Peace Resource Center invited people to go out to the fountain in 5 Points for the International Day of Peace. The day has been held around the world for more than 3 decades. The president of the center says now the nation needs peace more than ever.
We have violence here at home. We could use peace here at home as well. And the important thing for people to know is everybody can contribute to making a more peaceful world. We have all of these problems, but each one of us can do a little bit about those problems.
People who were out there lit candles ahead of it starting to rain, encouraging others to stand for peace as well. And we will continue to follow this story as it develops. You can go to our website, WLTX.com, and see a timeline of what we know and more information as it develops.